I think one of the ways that parents dehumanize their children is by never saying, I'm sorry, in a genuine and authentic manner. Hi, my name is Dr. Natalie Jones. I'm a licensed therapist who've been counseling men and women who've been victims and perpetrators of abuse for many years now. You guys know I've worked with a lot of adult children who've been abused over the years by their parents. And one of the things that I think hurts children most, or makes it apparent that parents see them as less than, is when parents don't apologize, or they apologize in a way that's inauthentic or dismissive or even more hurtful. So they can give like sort of a backhanded apology. I'm sorry, but if you hadn't have done X, Y, and Z, that's backhanded. Or I'm sorry you feel that way. That's a BS apology. Those kinds of things. It's like when you have children are people too. Children have feelings, and children have the need to be heard. And when you've done something hurtful, it's good to apologize. Let that children know that you saw them and you heard them, apologize, and also rectify the behavior that was disrespectful, hurtful, or abusive. If you're really all about change, and if you're really all about like respecting your child and bettering the relationship, then you will do that. And a lot of times parents may say, but a lot of times parents don't apologize because they don't feel like their child is worth an apology. They feel disrespected that their child would even want them to do that. Well, I raised you, who the hell are you to want an apology from me? You get some sort of negative pushback like that. Or, I think the other thing that may happen is there's a false sense of apology, like where that parent will apologize to that child for the sole purpose of taking advantage or abusing them in another way, or as a joke, right? Because sometimes people can be made fun of or be put on display in front of other people, siblings, their parents' friends, so-called friends or whatever, to be made a mockery of, or to be sort of clowned, as the young people call it. But I think people, even children, they deserve to be heard, they deserve to be seen, they deserve to be listened to, and they deserve an apology when you've hurt them or you've wronged them in some way. You don't have the right to tell someone how to feel, nor shoot down someone when they tell you how they feel. Like, you can be responsible for your actions in doing that. And I think there would be a lot of discord in families between parents and children, if parents saw their children as people too that are also worthy of care, love, and respect, and communications and boundaries. But I feel like too often parents see their children as like, you don't have the right to tell me nothing. I'm the one in charge here. So whatever you feel like, how dare you try to communicate with me in that way? Because in my mind, as your parent, you are beneath me, right? And while you may not, sometimes it may take a mirror for parents to get that, but that communication still comes across like you're beneath me, like you're not worth an apology, you're not worth that communication. I don't have to talk to no child. I mean, how many times have you heard that? I know I've heard that quite a number of times. People may apologize. Well, I'm sorry, and then just go right on back to doing the same, toxic behavior. So, if you respect your children, it's good to always have a conversation with them. It's always good to have a child sort of, feel safe enough to talk with you about their feelings without being dismissed or made a mockery of, or without fearing that you're going to go right back to the same stuff. Remember, your children, whether you like it or not, your children learn how they're supposed to interact in relationships from their parents. Your parents are their biggest role models. And with that being said, I think it's also part of that teaching and that training with children is to, be able to apologize to your spouse or your partner as well and communicate with them like they're a human being, because the other side of it is that you can't be do as I say, not do as I do, because modeling is such a powerful, has such a powerful impact. So your children also need to see you communicating with other men, other women, and apologizing and hearing their feelings out and respecting their feelings and changing your behavior with them, right? So, I'm sure there's a lot of people who listen to me that have, they may feel like they have a dad that they can talk to, but maybe their father is a womanizer. They may have a mother that they feel like they can talk to, but their mother secretly talks junk about her friends to you, or something, just some sort of variation of toxic behaviors where it's like, yeah, I may talk to my mom, or I may talk to my dad, but I know I can't trust them, or I can never look to them to be a role model for how to interact in relationships. Or I can't tell you how many times I've heard this. I would never want a relationship like my parents had. I don't want that for myself. I don't even want friendships like they've had, or my parents are not someone whom I look up to or that I aspire to be. So just remember, when you have children, they're always watching, they're always learning, and you have to think long and hard about the relationship that you want with your children. And for those of you who watch this video and you're like, oh, my parents and my relationship and mine are great, that's fantastic. I'm happy for you. There's a lot of people out there that do not have that same reciprocity and respect from their parents. So a lot of times what happens with their parents is their parents will expect them to always bow down to them, always respect me, always obey me, always treat me as higher than, because I am your mama or I'm your daddy. You always have to treat me like that, because that's my right as your mama or your daddy. But I don't owe you anything because you're my child and I brought you into this world, but I don't owe you anything besides the food, water, shelter that I'm legally required to give to you. Outside of that, I don't owe you shit else. You kind of get some of that stuff. Sorry for cursing. You kind of get some of that stuff. You don't get anything else. And that's not the way it's supposed to be, because it's another human being. Children are another human being, and they deserve that respect. They deserve that courtesy. And it's messed up if you treat your friends or your man or your woman better than you treat your own children. You would sort of kowtow to them and give them respect before you give your own flesh and blood, the very same person that you're preaching to, that blood is thicker than water. So, just watch for the hypocrisies, and, there's always a chance to improve and do better if you want to do that authentically. But be mindful, adult children, of parents who are inauthentic and parents who are most likely never going to change.